felt great. Ran a 1:13 off the bike, and I was like, okay. And so haven't looked back. And then I started to notice, like, okay, what body change? My digestive system just felt better. It was just a cleaner way to eat. And as I said, I've got a 2-year-old son. Most of the time he sleeps through the night, but I'm not sleeping as much as I used to. I don't get to nap anymore. I'm not getting as much sleep, but my quality of sleep has definitely improved. I wake up and the 3-step test, I'm not sore first thing in the morning. Like, I can do a really hard quality run, like a 90-minute run with 30 minutes of hard hill running and running back down the hill, and my legs are fine the next day. Like, I'm doing high quality efforts on the bike, and they're the things I'm noticing now when I've actually get a second to just take a step back and look, and it's crazy. Yeah, but my body just, dairy's an easy option because it's there and it's how we grew up. I grew up, you should drink like 3 glasses of milk a day. I don't know, but like I used to drink a lot of milk and cheese, and now I'm like, how did I do that?
All right, welcome back to the Yogi Triathlete Podcast. I am Jess, your host, and I'm here with Coach BJ and longtime triathlete. Do they still call you Smokin' Joe? I'm going to call you Smokin' Joe.
Some people do. My best friend gave me that nickname, and it's sort of stuck.
I like it. Smokin' Joe Gambles, and we're all just coming off, and actually I think still very much in the Ironman 70.3 Oceanside vibe. I want to jump off this conversation talking about your experience yesterday, because as competitors, we have a lot of triathletes, ultra runners, marathoners that listen to this podcast. And we all know that like we can plan, we can execute the training, we can show up on race day, we can visualize the day as much as we want, but there's still going to be that unknown and the factors of race day that are going to unfold, and we're not going to know about them until it's happening. And so yesterday, I would say, did not go as you had planned. And so, welcome to the show.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, let's just dive in there. What happened yesterday?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, it's funny. It's the first time I've turned up to Oceanside in the last few years, healthy, fit, and race ready. And after a great swim, finally an ocean swim at Oceanside, which was great, beach start, and some surf to contend with. Had a great swim, got out exactly where I needed to be, not at the very front, but in the main group with a strong pack of cyclists. Jumped on the bike and pretty much flattered straight away. And I don't know what happened, but I don't know, hit something, brand new tires, brand new tubes, and it was just bad luck. And so by the time I got that fixed, I was pretty much at the end of the women's pro field. So I was like, well, I've come all this way, and it's a beautiful bike course, and I'll just use it as a training day because, why not? And I had no intention of ever running the whole thing because I'm actually racing again next weekend in Australia, so there's no point putting 30 miles in my legs, especially on a hard course such as Oceanside. So I just tried to enjoy myself, relax, try and use it as a hard training day and a good hit out. So that's what I did. It was a little bit hard to get my head around, but I felt great, and that's the frustrating thing, that I felt like I was ready for a really good day, and but it didn't happen. That's racing. I've been racing many, many years, and I think that's only my second flat tire ever, so I've been pretty fortunate.
Yeah,
so.
and like we said, I saw at least a handful of people getting a flat in that exact spot, and so I had come around the corner because I wanted to be in that spot seeing everybody come out of the transition, and I saw an athlete on the ground, but then there was a motorbike, like a moped in front of you, and I thought, oh my gosh, like I hope that at this point I didn't know it was you. I hope that athlete didn't get hit. And then as I got closer, I was like, oh, it's Joe. And I just didn't want to be seeing you contending with this. And
I didn't want to be.
I know you didn't, and it was interesting because I was standing like right there, and there was somebody who was next to me who obviously knew you really well, and he said, Joe, are you okay? And you were like, no. I don't know. And I could just see this, like, there was the mental conflict that was happening. And he said, well, just take a couple breaths and make your decision. And you said, well, maybe I'll just save it for next weekend. And he said, Joe, there's always something left. And you just got your shoe back on and you got on your bike and off you went. So how, like you said, it took a little bit to get your head wrapped around it, because we've got this preference, this like, we don't want that to be happening on race day. So how do you reset? Like, how did you reset yesterday?
Yeah, well, that's funny. If there was one person that I'd want to be there to tell me that, it's that guy. And that's actually Lawrence Van Lingen, who's my bodywork guy, who's the reason I'm probably still racing. Yeah, he's amazing.
He was so calm.
Oh, that is Lawrence.
Yeah.
Like, if you follow here, like, you have to follow him. I think Lawrence Van Lingen, I think it's in a runner. He's actually, and he does these amazing, he lives in Laguna Beach. And right now he's doing these amazing Instagram stories, which I watch when I'm on the trainer, when it's snowing outside in Boulder. And he's walking on the beach, just talking about breathing and connecting. And he's the guy that I saw just before the race for a tune-up, and I'm seeing him again tomorrow on my way out of California. And it's funny. That's what we did when half the session on Thursday before I drove down to Oceanside was about breathing and staying relaxed and connecting from your breathing to like from your head to your foot, and keeping that connection. And staying relaxed and fluid on the bike and not tensing up. So that's what I went with, and that got me really quickly back into the right mindset. I'm like, okay, no, I've got 56 miles to practice without the pressure of actually going for the win. What I want to do in a race situation. I always said this season I needed a race, a hit out before Oceanside, or a blowout race where I could just practice. And I didn't really want it to be Oceanside as my practice, but that's how it worked out. And I think it'll actually serve me well for the next races that are coming up. And there's always another race. I'm lucky that it was only a flat tire. Like Sam Appleton broke a collarbone yesterday. So
I was going to say,
there's worse things that can happen. Like in the end, I just thought, okay, just get through this in one piece. And especially after I saw Sam on the ground with a broken collarbone halfway through the bike, I'm like, just get through safely and use it as a good training day. And
it allowed you to actually be in service of Sam because you stopped.
Yeah, stop, of course. Yeah, he's one of my closest friends in Boulder. We spend a lot of time together, and I felt awful for him. But yeah, he had a lot of support. Paramedics were there very quickly, and two of our friends were like one of the first people on scene, and they just told me what had happened, and I stopped. It was actually Talbot Cox was one of them, and Mark Andrews from Trek. So, and they're like, oh, he's fine, he's all right. He's just but I think he's done a collarbone. I'm like, oh, I should probably keep riding, I guess.
Yeah.
So I was there a couple of minutes, but it was good to know that Sam was going to be okay.
He was going to be okay.
Yeah.
So I love this guy. Like, even when I heard him talking yesterday, and I could feel like his peace. Like, he's got this foundation of calm. And I was standing right next to him, just observing the whole thing. What have you learned from connecting to the breath?
That I'm not very good at breathing. I found, but you can quickly reteach yourself, and it was amazing just breathing correctly. Really, just it's amazing what release you can get in your thoracic spine to your chest, and that translates to the whole kinetic chain down to how your feet connect with the ground. So it's pretty amazing. And Lawrence, he's helped. I'm not going to name names, but like so many athletes over the last.
We need to get Lawrence on the podcast.
We might have to. Yeah.
Oh,
How long have you been working?
It's
with him?
amazing. Probably 4 years now.
And did it come from an injury or what?
He comes out to Boulder a handful of times a year, and I was told by a good friend of mine, Julie Dibbins, who was the first one to connect with him, oh, you should see this guy. He's amazing. And she couldn't explain exactly what he did, but you just need to see him. And it's true. I can't explain what he does. He's got a gift. And I've spent a lot of time, and I think probably at least twice he's probably saved me from probably exiting the sport, especially when I hurt my Achilles for the third time. I went over, that was 2016, I think. I went over to support my athlete, Heather Jackson, and I couldn't run a step. And Lawrence was out there, and he said, look, let's work together like an hour or so every day, and let's just see if we can get this ironed out. So I went from not being able to put my foot on the ground pretty much, even walking was painful, to after 3 days of working, I was running barefoot on a treadmill, to then the day after Kona, I ran an hour on a Leahy Drive, pain-free. And then 5 weeks later I did Ironman Arizona. And I hadn't run a step since 70.3 Worlds in Australia because I really messed myself up. And I've had a few issues come up, and I'm undoing a lot of bad habits of many years of abuse on my body from not moving correctly or overcompensating, overtraining. I've been doing this. I'm 37. I did my first triathlon when I was 12, and I ran before that. So
things are going to come up in that span of time, but you just hit upon something which I think is so important. I was talking to a PT the other day here in Carlsbad about this too. It's like sometimes we get these places in our body like, oh, my right hip, oh, my left ankle, whatever, my Achilles. And it becomes a part of our story. And it's almost like this acceptability that you're going to have this thing that's going to hold you back. But like you said, you can undo and unravel these patterns and kind of get yourself, like I'm definitely, when something comes up, I'm like, okay, good. Like I'm going to heal this forever. Like this is going to be a forever healing, not just getting me through this next race, but and whatever that takes. Sometimes it takes years. Sometimes it's pretty quick.
Having the long-term perspective is definitely the right way to go about it. Yeah, when I came back from my Achilles injury, I think spent every day for a year, I'd have like a 30-minute routine that I do. Like I had inflexible, weak feet, basically, from being put in orthotics from when I was like a teenager, and I relied on them as a crutch. And I had to change this if I wanted to, one, continue to race, and two, be able to go and kick the soccer ball with my son, like when I'm like in my 40s, like, because at that time I was like, I couldn't really like step down off of anything without being a little bit unsure whether my Achilles was going to play up.
And it's hard at that point to imagine a life where you don't have that.
Yeah, right? I know.
But your son, that's amazing. And I've heard that before from athletes or people who make lifestyle changes, that maybe aren't athletes, that like they have a child and they're like, oh, wait a minute, like this little dude's going to be super active and I want to be active with him.
Yeah, for sure. And I mentioned before we started the podcast, I don't want to get to the point where I have to quit this sport. I want to leave like when I'm still healthy and I haven't done long-term damage to my body. I'm still in pretty good shape.
You're still smoking, Joe. You're still smoking, Joe.
Look, it's definitely, I don't recover like I used to, that's for sure. Like little things that probably I get now in my late 20s, they just disappear. They just go away because, you're 20. But it's funny, one of my close friends, he said, wait till you get to 30. Yeah, and that was when I was 30, I had my first real injury.
Yeah.
And he was right, and he like, wait till you have to do the three step test out of bed. That's when you know if it's going to be a good day or a bad day. How your body is in the first step, 3 steps out of bed. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, it's going to be rough. Yep. Or you're like, oh, okay, maybe I can run today.
I think I felt those 3 steps this morning. I was standing on concrete all day yesterday at the race. I was listening to a podcast with you, and you were talking about, you and Crowy were talking, and Crowy was like, well, when you get to be our age, and you're like, dude, I'm like 10 years younger than you.
I know, but now I'm in that category. I'm a veteran of the sport, which I don't know when that happened. Yeah, but
you've been racing for a long time.
I have, yeah, but yeah.
And now you're seeing like these Ben Knuts and Eric Auguststroms. I mean, these guys coming up from ITU, it's amazing. Like from my perspective, just seeing, the bar was already being raised and pushed and all of that, and the pace. But these guys, like, my God, watching Ben Knut run yesterday, which was his perceived weakness, and being out there and just crushing the course.
But being able to bounce back and forth, like he's still got his toes in
he is
ITU,
bouncing.
So he's like back and forth, and he's being successful at both.
But that's what you need to be the top of the 70.3 game now. You need that speed. You need to really come from ITU. When you've got guys like Rudy Wild, Rudy Von Berg, not losing 80 seconds in the swim, that means it was a fast swim. Like, we got Knut and Appleton and Lagstrom and Dylan McNeice. Dylan McNeice used to lead swims by himself. Now I think he was out like third or fourth yesterday. That means it was a really hard
And Taylor Reed, he's coming up from ITU, and he had a
yeah. Well, he was even behind me. Yeah, but like in the swim, like it's just crazy. Like the swim level just keeps going up and up. I left ITU because I was like, I'm never going to be a good enough swimmer, and I went to 70.3. I'm like, okay, this is a little better. But now it's back to getting when you got Gomez stepping up and Brownlee and Blumenfeld and all these guys. You're like, okay,
How far has that changed? So you were in ITU. How far has it changed that you see now? Like there's almost like it's like a team aspect too with like the Norwegians. Like they're just all three of those guys are like hammers.
Yeah.
So how's that changed since you were in?
Oh, well, it's a long time since I did a ITU draft legal race, but it's so different. Like if I was swimming like I am now, back then I would have been out exactly where I needed to be. I probably would have been one of the stronger riders, but I'd probably still wouldn't have had quite the run speed. But now those guys are amazing, and they train. Like the reason they step up so easily from that distance to 70.3 is their training is like volume is as much as 70.3, and they do enough aerobic work and long rides and long runs, and they've just got these amazing biomechanics that they step up no problem
and
at all.
their top end training is so fine tuned that adding in a little bit of distance is not.
No, it's definitely.
So would you say it's when somebody's going, so ITU or just, your average Joe who's been, pretty successful in Olympic distance going up to 70.3, would you say that intensity, that top end training is pretty key to continue as opposed to being like, oh, well, now I need endurance, so I'm just going to go out and do a lot of math paced stuff?
I think that was maybe what people used to do, but I think with the way the sport's going, even at Ironman, people were going back to like, okay, I need to do some really high intensity work. Like if you want to be off the bike towards the front in Kona, you need to be able to ride really fast, and it's quite dynamic, that race, especially at the start. Like there's a lot of surges where you're going over threshold, under threshold, and if you're used to just riding steady state for 4.5 hours, you're out the back door before you get past the airport. It's changing so quickly, and that's why guys that have that background are dominating the sport now.
And I think we're seeing that also, BJ, you being a top age grouper, are seeing that at your level, at your level as well, in the age group level, that training that top end as well as recovering really well so that you can adapt that, stay healthy, that it's not just about the run anymore. Like you got to be a strong swimmer, you got to be a strong biker, you got to be strong in all three disciplines.
Definitely. Yeah, the run, I don't think in the pro level, the run, apart from like Jan's run 70.3 Worlds last year, and Lang obviously is getting faster and faster on the run in Kona, the run hasn't got that much faster. The bike is crazy now. Like with Cam Worth and like even Lionel when he's on his best ride, like the guys are just riding like they would over 70.3, but just doing it twice and then running a marathon in 250 odders. It's pretty crazy.
And that just screams bike fitness because you have to be strong on the bike to be able to run those paces.
Well, you need a big engine, and the only way you're going to do that is high intensity training. And it's as you said, coming back to the age group level, it's more time efficient. Like you can get like my prep for Oceanside for the last 12 weeks, my bike pretty much hasn't left the trainer, and my longest ride has been 3 hours. But you're getting so much cross benefit from the long runs, or like you still train. Like I still do a day where I'm doing 6 hours, but there's a lot of quality in there. And I think when you get closer to Ironman, you still need to do the aerobic work. But for 70.3, you've got to be fast, or you're not going to be anywhere near the front.
Yeah, back to Lionel, because that's where he's so public about his training.
Yeah,
he's talking about going back to his Olympic, like the training for Olympic distance, getting that high intensity short burst stuff, 30 seconds, minute stuff, and build that all now. And then as you get closer to the Ironman, sprinkle in that.
Yeah, I don't think you need as much as you think, and especially if you've been in the sport a long time. And that going back to when I was talking to Crowe, I just went for a ride with him in Kona last year, and it was so interesting to talk to him. Like he's like, I'm only training 15 hours a week, but he's racing 70.3 as nearly as well as he ever has, but he's got such a foundation, such a base there of aerobic fitness that, yeah, he'll like just top that up every now and then. He said he'd go for a long ride. I don't know, he might be talking it down a little bit, but like once a month he'll go for a 4-hour bike ride or something. But a lot of it is getting on Zwift. He's got 3 kids, wife, like he's got a lot of coaching company. He's got a lot of sponsor commitments. So he doesn't get as much time unless he goes away and on a training camp to put those hours in. But I don't think he needs to at this point.
Yeah, he's still relevant.
Yeah.
I think people need to hear that though. Like you don't have to. I feel because we're in the coaching world too. They're looking for the numbers. They're looking for how much. I did 20 hours or 25 hours this week, and
it's what you do in those 20 hours.
20 hours, right? So 10 or 15 hours of quality work. Can still get you to the same point.
Yeah, and especially as I said, if you've got. Look, I think there's a place for it if you're starting out. Like, you do need that aerobic foundation. Like, if you don't have that, if you don't have a background in aerobic sport, if you weren't a runner or a cyclist or a swimmer, then there is a place for that. But if you've got like 5-6 years behind you of that sort of background, I think it's more about the quality and just trying to maintain that aerobic fitness. And because it wears you down. And then you can't hit the quality that you need to do to actually get faster. So it's finding that balance, and it's different for everyone.
And let's face it, like we're all gonna fail at some point, right? And you've done it yourself. You've overtrained, you've probably undertrained, like you've been injured, you've come back, and all of these things. And then I want to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about your athlete, Heather, who, you've known Heather for a long time, and you are always planning on going into coaching. And perhaps this entered in maybe a little bit earlier than you thought you were going to start coaching. But I love that because that's just how the universe works, right? You just keep all channels open. And of course, bringing on somebody like Heather that's pretty exciting athlete to have. And so, she's got longevity in the sport like you do, and she is still just crushing it out there. So when you took her on, what did you see in what she was doing, and what did you think that, you could bring to her equation?
Yeah, that was, I was really fortunate to start working with Heather, and it was just by coincidence. I was just visiting, I was in Bend, Oregon, actually, when I was injured with my Achilles. And before I met Lawrence, I went to see another physio called Jay, Running Rewired is his book. Jay Tashari, I think. I'm not sure how you say his last name. Anyway,
we'll find him and put him in the show notes.
No, he's very, very well known physio that has helped a lot of athletes. So I went and saw him, and while I was there, I was catching up with Heather and Waddy, and got chatting with Heather, and she was first time I'd ever spoken to her, and she seemed a little lost and not motivated. It was the end of January, I think, and normally by then she's like, right, Oceanside's coming up, and she was like, no, she just didn't seem to have that, and she's like, I just feel like I'm doing what I did last year, and I lost 11 minutes. Well, it was the year after she got 5th in Kona, and she lost 11 minutes in the swim, and I'm just doing the same swim workouts, and I need something, and I was like, I just chatted to her. I don't think I suggested anything. I said, maybe I told her what maybe I'd tried or what worked for me to improve my swim a little bit. I get a message later that day from her husband, Waddy, Sean, and how do you feel about coming over this afternoon and chatting to us about potentially coaching Heather? I'm like, I wasn't expecting that text. And anyway, I went over, and we started working together a few days later, and there was some gaps in her training that I saw that I think if we filled, she could get a really big boost. And she'd always been a great rider, but her bike had definitely dropped off a fair bit. Her run had improved out of sight, and her coach at the time, Cliff English, had done amazing work with her on her run. But her bike, it's great to get it to that level, but you also need to maintain your bike when you swim.
Because you got to be fit on the bike.
Yeah, so her swim and bike had dropped off. Well, maybe not. Her swim had stayed the same. Her bike had dropped off, but her run had improved. So all we did for that first year was try and maintain that run and bring her bike back up, and very quickly just changing her training, the type of work she was doing on the bike. She was riding really, really well again. And it only took probably 8 to 10 weeks. And the swim, and it was more with the swim, just giving her something new to focus on. some new programs, some new technical cues, like something to just give us a focus. And obviously we're still working on things, still tweaking things. Things have gone pretty smoothly. Kona last year obviously wasn't great. Still figuring out probably what went wrong there, but she turned it around really quickly and then went and destroyed Arizona. And we've definitely done very different training this year. And her run, I think, has taken a step up. I think a lot of people have come up to me and commented on how good she looked running yesterday. Like she looked different. And I agree. And we've definitely changed a few things with her run program. If you try and improve everything at once, it's a little difficult. So the run's been a little bit more of a focus. The bike, like she rode as well as she has ever at 70.3 yesterday. It's just Daniela was there and Holly was there and Paula and Ellie. And well, they're the 4 best 70.3 athletes going around right now, pretty much, apart from maybe Jeannie Seymour and Lucy Charles. Like there's like that was a world-class field right there. And Heather did it off the back of not a really crazy specific preparation.
But coming off of Kona last year, so she didn't have the performance, but then went and, her words, best race she's ever had in Arizona.
She said that, right?
Yeah, like
she didn't tell me that.
Well, just in the quick Mike Riley post interview, she was saying it was the best performance, and people that we know in the industry, pros, saying, it was the best. It was the best performance she's ever had. And Carrie Lester, who came in second. She had an amazing race that day.
Yeah.
Held off.
Still can't believe she doesn't have a spot. It's held
off Heather for quite some time, and then Heather was just
half marathon.
Yeah. So what was the magic, or maybe it was just magic that happened between that Kona? I mean, she had to have been a little bit like, oh God, that sucked, and then coming back up to the total other end and just crushing it in Arizona.
Yeah, it wasn't smooth between Kona and Arizona. Basically there was no one more disappointed with Kona than Heather. So we chatted briefly. I actually flew out the day after Kona and I said, look, let's talk in 4 or 5 days. Just go relax. I said, you're going to feel horrible and then you're going to feel good. It's just going to be up and down for the next. That's normal.
Because it's like grief, right? Like you're going to be pissed. Yeah. You're going to be grateful.
She just felt like she let down all her supporters, and there's so many people that are behind Heather when she didn't. Like she did her best, and it just didn't work out. That's Kona. Like she's been so consistent there. You're going to have a bad one eventually. But yeah, we chatted maybe 4 or 5 days after the race when I was back in Boulder, and I could tell she got her head around it. She's like, right, yeah, doing Arizona. I'm like, okay, good. All right, so I don't want you to do anything for another few more days because you still did an Ironman. And then we're going to do a week easy, and then we're going to do 2 weeks of specific work. And that's probably not going to go very well. But if you can do 2 good, like pretty good run workouts and 2 good bike workouts in that 2 weeks, you'll be fine. And she had some bad sessions, but she basically did a couple of good bikes and we didn't really taper. I wanted her to. She had basically 2 weeks of like a week off and a week of just moving, and then I think she did a 2-week block, which she was up and down, and she had like maybe 3 days easy into the race. Like we did like a reverse taper because she needed to get the fatigue out of her body from the Kona training block and the race, and there was no point starting. I'd rather have had. Like she needed to know that she was 100% recovered before she started doing anything. Because what I said her was pretty hard, and but it was only short. It was like maybe a 10-day block. And yeah, we spoke the day before the race. Like she's like, "Oh, I'm a little bit sick, I think, but I think I'll be all right." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, well, let's see how you go. Like, let's just roll the dice and just see how you go." And I think the tactics, I spoke to her for like a minute. I said, do this in the swim, do this on the bike, do this on the run. And, all right, I'll speak to you after. Like, it was not, because I think at that point in the season, she just needs some dot points to like just focus on. it's been a long year. She's mentally tired. She doesn't want to overthink it. So I said, like, on the bike, I want you to do 3 laps on the bike. I want you to look at your power, and I want your last lap to be your strongest lap. And I was, because the Ironman commentary is filmed in Boulder, I actually went in and did some commentary for the Arizona, which I really enjoyed, actually. I didn't know how I'd go, but I enjoyed it. They haven't asked me back, though, so maybe it didn't go very well.
Was that with Matt? Was Matt and Dee?
Matt and Dee, yeah. So I was watching, and I'm like, okay, Kerry's riding really well, but Heather's holding her. Okay, that's good. And then I think in the last maybe 30, what was it, like, it was 40 miles a lap. So yeah, maybe the last 20 miles, she pulled in like 2 minutes and got off the bike, I think, with her in the end. I'm not sure. I can't quite remember if she actually caught her.
On the
on the bike.
Carrie on the bike. No, not.
She caught her on the run.
Oh, yeah, she caught her on the run, but she got within, I think, 90 seconds or 2 minutes.
Close.
Yeah. She closed about 3 minutes in the last lap.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. Like, I had no idea what power she was pushing, but yeah, later on, I went, oh yeah, she basically even splitted it, even picked it up a little bit on that last lap. And on the run, I want you to do exactly even split. And it's very hard to even split or negative split a marathon, but she was within 2 minutes, I think, which is the best she's ever done. She nearly broke 3 hours. And yeah, that did not go smoothly that day. She was, a little bit sick, and she just had a bit of a head cold, and something like her foot was bothering. Like, things didn't go great, but she just, I don't know,
she put it together
in her head. And if she didn't, it was all about,
and the simplicity of what your focuses were.
Yeah, I said they just broke it down into just a few parts on each discipline, and she executed it perfectly. And yeah, it was good. It was a nice way to finish the year after Kona, and to get her spot for Kona next year. And yeah, it was a good positive way to finish off, for sure.
I think it started in the framework that you set up for her too. Like, you're gonna feel bad. You're gonna get you rested. You're gonna feel bad. You're gonna feel great. You're gonna feel bad. Mm-hmm. Let's just see how it goes.
Yeah.
I think obviously that comes from experience and knowledge, which is it's just so important to have that outside perspective, that coaching perspective, to give you that feedback and to have the trust. Like, she's got that absolute trust. Yeah. You guys have that working relationship even before you started working together as coach and athlete. And I just think it's truly important to set that framework up for the athlete. Like, it doesn't have to be all pressure. Look at the whole experience, like all that mind muck that's happening after Kona. Like, let's give you a break. Yeah. Let's just rest. Yeah. Trust in the process. Let's just see how it's going to go.
Yeah. The fitness was there. Her Kona prep was like textbook. Yeah. And that was the only concern I had. I spoke to her husband before we went out for a beer, because we get more nervous than her, I think. And I was like, and she's like, I'm just worried that it's too smooth. She's too relaxed. And she didn't have a good Kona. She didn't have a bad Kona, but it wasn't anywhere near what she'd been training. Like, what she was doing in training, I'm like, okay, it's go time. And she was perfect. Whereas in previous years, she'd had some bad sessions where and she'd got pushed a little hard and paid for it a few days later, and we had to have a few days off, and she got a little sick, and maybe that helped her. It actually let her body reset a little bit, whereas this time it was just the trajectory was it was too perfect, I think.
Everything on paper said she should have just crushed it, but
she should have swum the way she was swimming. She was knocking out 200s in 2:18 repeat, swimming better. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And then I was like, she should have been able to ride with anyone. She should have at least been able to go with Daniela for the first 40, 50 miles. And then I was thinking okay, a 2:55 marathon.
Sure.
Easy. Yeah. And it just didn't have off train. And she was training in Tucson in 100 degrees. Yeah. And I went out there for 10 days, and I got dropped by her every day. I was just melting. My heart rate was 165, just going for an easy jog. I'm like, how are you doing this?
It was almost like she didn't she had all the fitness, but there was something like she hadn't absorbed it yet.
Oh, she did for Arizona. Yeah, I think
and
that's,
she did for Arizona, like she had absorbed it. And I think it goes back to how we started this conversation. It's like you can look at the data and the information all day long. You can look at the mindset all day long, but like race day comes and you just never know how it's going to shake down.
Yeah.
But there's always another race. And it's like, what do you need to do now to pick yourself up and move forward? And so there is that trust, the trust of you as a coach, like, okay, all right, trusting that this is going to maybe go okay, and her trusting you, and you guys just trusting the plan. And I want to switch gears a little bit because there's another big piece of trust, and that goes around nutrition. So you have been a lifelong vegetarian. Your grandparents were vegetarian. You told us your parents. But in 2018, you started to make that shift to go fully, fully vegan.
What started it was Dottie Bausch, who's Olympic cyclist, bronze medalist. Yeah.
She's up here in LA, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think Laguna Beach area.
Yeah, Matt McElroy's talked about her too, because I think Matt's talked to. Is she plant-based?
Yeah, 100%. She's an animal activist. So she started Compassion Champs, which is still around, but it's more of it's a website for people to go to get information.
Oh, I love it.
But it's actually changed names now to Switch for Good, which is actually on my race kit. Like I'm an ambassador for them.
Love it.
It's obviously it's vegan, but it's very anti-dairy. And she encouraged me back in January 2018 to do the plant milk challenge, and I was not, so basically, replace milk with whatever, lots of things, hemp milk, almond milk, oat milk, whatever you want to do, and yogurt, and no cheese. And I did it. It's a 10-day challenge, and I was like, of course I'll do that. And I did a little video, and and I did that, and I ended up going for like 3 weeks, maybe doing it, and I felt good. But I just wasn't in the headspace to take on, to change my diet that much.
Because you're getting a lot of calories and you're getting a lot of protein.
Yeah, and we just had our son was just turning 1. We just moved house. I was in the middle of hard training. I'm like, I probably shouldn't change anything. So I cut out milk, but I was still doing cheese occasionally and eggs. Not that it's dairy, but I was still 100% vegan then. And I just basically started to gradually take things out and see how my body adapted. And then after Kona last year, Dotsie actually had a seminar in Boulder that she invited me to, where they had a professor in environmental studies come from CU, Dr. James Loomis, who's a vegan advocate, very sports doctor, very well renowned. He's won I don't know anything about American sport, but he's won a Super Bowl ring. Well, he was the doctor for the Rams, I think. I could be making this up. Anyway, amazing guy. He spoke, and Dotsie spoke, and another plant-based runner spoke. And it was very interesting to hear from the professor about the environmental impact of the dairy industry and the meat industry, and then hear from athletes. So Dotsie, obviously, bronze medal in the team time trial at 2012 Olympics, I think, or 8, I can't remember now. And she did that purely plant-based. She'd eaten meat her whole life. She grew up in Kentucky, I think, and she lived on a farm. They ate a lot of meat, but she won the bronze medal pure about 4 years of going completely plant-based. And it was really interesting to hear from this doctor as well. And I was like, and just the community there, it was 150 people that turned up, and just, it was amazing, the support for this. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this 100% now and just see. I've got a couple more races. I think I had 3 more races that year to do, and I'm just going to do this for a while and just see how these next races go. They're not big races, but I've started just got to get over that hump. The first 2-3 weeks, I'm like, what am I going to eat? I ended up eating the same thing every day, for lunch, because I just busy and just couldn't get my head around it.
You're not, I want to just say this message to everyone, you're not good at it at first. You're not good. We were not good at it the first year. We kept
We were
eating
veggie
just
burgers
a lot of
on top
veggie
a salad,
burgers.
and that was it.
Yeah.
Like constantly.
Well, that's what I was doing for lunch. I was putting them in a wrap with hummus, so I was a little bit more creative. But like,
Mind blown.
yeah, like
Yeah, you're
really
not
thinking
gonna be
outside the
good
box
at
there.
But you get better at it.
Yeah, I know my wife's mate. She eats vegetarian, but she's always eaten meat. But I can't remember the last time.
So how did these races go?
Amazing. Like, yeah.
Oh, wait, Indian Wells. I think you were at Indian Wells.
Yeah, I was
right?
second Indian Wells. Came off the bike with Lionel, ran the first 3 miles with him, and then he got away. Like, he had 20 seconds on me halfway through the run, but I was like, that felt different. Like, I just felt great. And previous to that, I was third in Waco 70.3, 45 seconds, I think, behind the win, and then backed up the following weekend and got third in Los Cabos. I'm like, okay, that's pretty good. Like, this is better. And my numbers on the bike were better. I just felt...
What about recovery?
Like, there's no way I can do back-to-back halves, fly to Mexico and...
And this is at the end of a season. This is at the end of the year.
I'd done 3 Ironmans. I hadn't finished one of them, but like, I was...
Which is something you don't normally do. You don't...
No. Like, so I'd done 2 3/4 Ironmans. I don't know how many 70.3s, like 6
And now
or
you're
something.
hitting it at the end of the year in December.
Yeah, or December 12th or something. And I'm like, what? This is weird. Why am I racing in December? I'm normally like a little chubby by now. And like, I just felt great. Ran a 1:13 off the bike, and I was like, okay. And so haven't looked back. And then I started to notice, like, okay, what body change? My digestive system just felt better. It was just a cleaner way to eat. And as I said, I've got a 2-year-old son. Most of the time he sleeps through the night, but I'm not sleeping as much as I used to. I don't get to nap anymore. I'm not getting as much sleep, but my quality of sleep has definitely improved. I wake up and the 3-step test. I'm not sore first thing in the morning. Like, I can do a really hard quality run, like a 90-minute run with 30 minutes of hard hill running and running back down the hill, and my legs are fine the next day. Like, I'm doing high quality efforts on the bike, and they're the things I'm noticing now when I've actually get a second to just take a step back and look, and it's crazy. Yeah, but my body just... Dairy's an easy option because it's there and it's how we grew up. I grew up, you should drink like 3 glasses of milk a day. I don't know, but like, I used to drink a lot of milk and cheese, and now I'm like, how did I do that?
You have a great page on your website where you've got the veggie blog and you have like what your old diet used to be and what your new diet is. And I was looking at it last night and I was literally kind of getting like a little sick to my stomach when I was reading the old diet, and then I'd be like, oh, the new diet. Oh, that sounds good. And then the old diet, and then the new diet, and just the vibrancy of the food. It's like, it just was like starting to make me hungry. Like it's eating this high vibrational food, and we're yogi triathletes, so we come at a lot of this from living a lifestyle of yoga and living the elements of yoga. And in yogic philosophy, there's 3 energies that are always in play in this world, and one of those is the sattvic energy, and they're called the gunas, the 3 gunas, and we're subject to all of them. They're gonna flow in and out. And I, as an athlete, I really watch them. One's like the lethargy, that's called the tamastic. It's kind of like heavy. And in food, the tamastic food would be dead flesh.
Okay.
Would be, rotting food, which is essentially what meat is when you're eating it,
Yeah,
right?
I know,
Because that's
what my mum used to tell me, and that definitely made me,
But that's what it is, right?
She still says it. It's hilarious. And she's gone vegan now as well. She's actually,
Oh, yeah,
and
Mom.
my dad now is like, and now he thinks it's a great idea, and he's been lifelong vegetarian as well, but... I'm like,
And then then there's the rajastic, which is like kind of like the caffeine, like we're having coffee, like it's kind of gives you a little pow, but maybe on the other side, you get a little bit, you pay for it a little bit. And then there's the sattvic food, which is the high vibrational. It's health promoting, and that's always plants, whole foods, things like that. And so, and you can just see it when you're looking at this old diet, new diet. I can see those energies in the food, you know, and that's the thing we hear the most from athletes like yourself, BJ and I. So all different levels, Rich Roll, Scott Jurek, all those guys. It's the recovery is like where we feel the biggest bang. And I'll never forget like that first Ironman I did on a plant-based diet. And the next day I'm like, why am I not like limping around and holding on to the wall?
Yeah.
Like
Didn't go hard enough, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe I need a new coach.
But yeah, it is. It takes a little bit for you to realize. You're like, hang on, I used to not be able to like think about like moving after an Ironman or a 70.3,
and being able to
hang on,
like,
I could run today.
Like exactly. And knowing that. And so we know that Lionel went plant-based and he kind of, and I know you're friends with him, kind of pinged back and forth and all of that. So when he was plant-based, because he's super passionate. So when he went plant-based, was he like, Joe, this, that, you gotta read this and all of that. And then he's kind of bounced back out.
Yeah,
right?
Well, that's sort of, how he is a little bit. He's all or nothing. And it's hard to say. Like, I think he said he went vegan after 70.3 Mont Tremblant Blanc. He lost,
I think he was
13 pounds, like 10 pounds or something like that.
That's a lot.
But yeah, like I think he's oversimplifying a little bit that the vegan diet didn't work for him. When you lose 10 pounds and you actually try and lose more weight leading into a race because you think you've put on weight because you're carbohydrate loading, he's changed his training, he's changed his bike fit. And I've talked to him about this, and I said, look, the best thing you can do, like, he said, you're not going to be happy with me now, Joe. I'm eating meat again. And his wife's still vegan, which is great.
Yay!
I think she does most of the cooking. And I said, look, just try and like do 1 day a week and just see how your body is. And then if that works, do 2. Just try and gradually incorporate it. Just try and gradually implement it back into your diet. Because he felt better, but he, I think, got to the point where he changed maybe too many things and he needed to go back to like just changing one thing at a time. And the easiest thing to go back to was eating meat, riding the same size bike frame. I don't know. Like he just moved too many things and he didn't know what had happened from going in so close to winning Kona the year before to not even finishing the top 20. And I honestly think he'll get back to being plant-based. Like he doesn't want to eat animals. He feels guilty. He feels bad about it. But yeah, he also wants to win Kona, and he's still figuring out what is the missing bit.
Well, I think part of the missing bit is the word you use, which is gradual.
Yeah.
Right? Like an all or nothing person.
He doesn't know that.
Gradual's like, what?
He doesn't know, yeah.
But perhaps that's something he's here to learn. And I kind of think that that's the secret to his success in the future is whatever it is, making it gradual. And yes, he's so calculated, but the jumps that he makes are just massive. So if you are Lionel's coach, what would you have him tweaking in his physical training?
Oh, his physical training. Well, that's a good question. I only know what he's doing from his YouTube videos, which are very entertaining. His physical training, I think he's on the right track with going back to high intensity training. I think I don't love the fact that he's done all this work on a road bike and now he's just jumped back onto a TT bike in a pretty aggressive position. It's hard to adapt. I think it's great to do road bike stuff. I know Sebastian Kinley does a lot of his riding on a road bike, but Lionel's doing all this quality stuff on a road bike, and then now it's race time, so I've got to ride the TT. And he's injured right now, which we'll see how he handles that. That's going to be really interesting because he's never really been injured, even though he would be the first to say he doesn't have the best biomechanics on the run. He's so strong that he's just been able to get through it. But I don't know. Like until he races again, I don't really know. He definitely was back to the old Lionel at Indian Wells. Like he was really happy. His power was like a really good numbers, and off limited training he ran well, and that was really good after he was in he had a lot of fatigue in Kona. I think he was a little bit in a hole. So to pull him out of that and then do what he did in Indian Wells, he's definitely back on the right track. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really great piece of advice though for people listening too. It's like, that TT bike, that position from a road bike it's significant. And so it's getting in that TT position, especially for Ironman distance. Like you're going to be in that position and
for
getting comfortable there. So even if you're on your TT bike, and I'm speaking specifically to age groupers and you're up, it's like get into that position and get comfortable there. And if it's not comfortable, then, get a look at your bike fit.
Yeah. One of the things when we were traveling cross country, I stopped in Boulder for a fit with Ivan.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was having lower back pain when I would like halfway through the bike. And what we concluded from the whole thing was I was riding the trainer and I was getting comfortable riding the trainer for a long time, sitting back, not in my normal TT position. So then when I got to race day, I'd be like getting aero and pushing the watts and racing, and it would irritate.
Yeah, you probably pull yourself forward on your saddle.
Exactly.
Like it's different. It's,
you got to be aware of those things.
And it's easy to like. My bike fitter is actually Matt Steinmetz, who's also out of Boulder, and he's like, well, if you're not going to ride your aero bars in the bike, just ride your road bike because it's not how I fit you. It's not I fit you to ride in this position. So if you're not going to ride that at least 80% of your ride, then just ride your road bike.
Right.
So that's what I do.
Yeah.
But any quality stuff I do on the TT bike because you've got to be relaxed and comfortable and be able to push power in an aero position.
And not save it for race day to show up and be, oh yeah, these are the watts I can push.
Yeah.
And it's completely
and
different.
I'm guilty of it myself. Like this time last year, I was struggling a little bit and you can always get more power if you do certain things. Like I was doing a lot of my efforts on a hill, not on the bars. And I could push what I thought was good power, but then put me on the flat and it was awful. Because I was a little overtrained, I was tired, I just had a lot going on, but I was trying to give myself a confidence boost I just go to the hills. And I'm riding pretty well. And then I came to Oceanside last year. It was dreadful. I was just like, put me in the bars and I was like, I can't push any power in this. And it took me a good 2 months to get it back together.
So you're still learning?
Oh, that's the thing. Like, and people at this point in your career, you try different things, I think. And there's a lot of guys that around my age that are just trying to have that one last shot at winning Kona or winning a big Ironman. And they're willing to take a few little risks now, which I don't know. It's tough. I did last year and it backfired horrendously. It was not. I tried to get a little bit more aero and in the end I just came back to a position I can hold in and push good power. And it's maybe not the most aero position, but if you can't turn the pedals, then it's no point being aero. Right.
And so you've got some serious street cred in this sport. You've been a triathlete, like you said, since you were 12, and you're 37, and so you've got a lot of longevity. And what do you think? What's the key to longevity? I mean, you're taking risks, you're succeeding, you're failing, and all of that. But what's the key, you think, to longevity?
Just enjoying it. Like you've got to. If I didn't enjoy it, it's a tough sport if you're not enjoying what you're doing. So, and just looking after your body. Like, if training's good when you're not having any pain. So if you can stay injury-free and healthy and be consistent, that's huge. Yeah, running with a little niggle, it takes the enjoyment out of it straight away. It's just not fun. So, looking after your body, especially as you get older, is huge. So that means getting in the gym, doing your strength work, maintaining your flexibility, getting regular body work. Yeah.
It's way more than swim, bike, run.
Oh, it is. That's the thing. Like, you got to do that, but to be able to do that properly, you need to do all the other little things. So it's a full-time job. And I scratch my head on how age groupers work full-time, have a family and still do this. And that's where it comes down to, like, maybe I'd rather an age grouper do like 12 hours a week of swim, bike, run and maybe 3 hours of other stuff that allows them to get more out of those 12 hours than skip that and try and I've got to do 20 hours of training this week. 20 hours of what? Like, it's probably going to be junk.
Right. I think there's a big deprogramming that needs to happen around, like, more is always better.
Yeah.
And so that's why I love having people like you on here who have been in the sport for so long and can reinforce that trust. And yeah, you are going to take risks, and yeah, you got to be willing to fail sometimes, but that it's not just swim, bike, run, and do it for the love of it. Do it because you love it. Especially age groupers, they're not getting paid to do this. They're paying a lot of money to do it. And some of them are working jobs that maybe don't fill them up, but those jobs allow them to do what they love.
For sure.
And so staying in that gratitude, I think, is really key.
Definitely. Yeah.
So what's the best way for people to follow you? Where are you most active?
Probably Instagram. I'm just about to launch my new website, which is Joe Gamble's Racing. Yeah. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, it's all just Joe Gamble's. So pretty easy to find. But yeah, I'm just about to launch this website, as I mentioned. I'm going to start doing some more coaching and make programs available online, and open to taking on a few more athletes. It's just trying to find the balance right now. I currently have 2 professionals and 2 age groupers, and yeah, right now that's works well with still racing and a family and stuff. But I definitely, over the next few years, I want to race still at the top level for the next 3-4 years, and then transition into full-time coaching, and yeah, like have a squad in Boulder, and maybe camps in Australia and Hawaii, and do online coaching as well. So yeah,
sounds like a pretty good vision.
Sounds pretty cool to me.
Awesome. Well, I know you have a vegan brunch to prepare.
I do.
For.
Yeah.
Thanks,
right.
Joe.
Joe,
So much.
awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.